Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from our friend Sean, who says, Ramsey, I could use your unique perspective on something at the moment. I'm a high school teacher in the United States, and our school has just started doing distance learning. So we have kids working from home over the internet. A bunch of teachers decided that we should do some kind of weekly journal where kids put down their thoughts on staying home, what it's like to not go to school, and generally how they feel. It's been a great way to connect with them and to see how they are doing, but it also makes me feel a little helpless. Lots of these kids are bored. Some of them are scared, mostly because their parents have to go to work and other people aren't being safe about staying home, distancing, etc. Some of them just have bad family lives, and now they're stuck with people who aren't the best influences in their lives. Since you've had lots more staying at home experience than most, and you're a father, I was hoping that you could help give some advice to these kids. How to keep from going nuts from staying inside, how to not scare yourself with the news while still being aware of what's going on, that kind of thing. Mostly I want them to not despair, because even though it's high school, they're still kids, and it breaks my heart to read some of their replies. I also want to say that I really appreciate your content as a 4th Dan Taekwondo instructor who eventually found combat sports. As an atheist who appreciates the real value of religion in society, and your positive, open-minded attitude toward everything in general, I have questions about generating more power with a Thai-style kick, coming from a Taekwondo background, but that's not what is important right now. You're a genuinely good dude, and I wish that there were more people like you. Thank you for being you. All right, Sean, thank you. Thanks for the question, and thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. Okay. As a child, I was a Cub Scout, then later as a young man, a Boy Scout, and one of the first things I learned about wilderness survival, because man, we needed it. Boy Scouts basically consisted of the scout leader driving us out into the middle of the wilderness, dropping us out there, giving us a compass, a map, and a canteen, and saying good luck, and then driving away. So, one of the first things I learned about wilderness survival was this: don't panic. Don't panic. If you are lost in the woods and you run around panicking, trying to find your way, you're going to get yourself more lost and quite possibly eaten by a mountain lion. I grew up around mountain lions and saw some bears out in the woods where I lived. Close to where I lived. And mountain lions, they have a very distinctive call. They make that sound, and it echoes and reverberates across the mountains and the bluffs. And it's a warning. And it's kind of terrifying. And we have this instinct, if we see a wild animal like that with jaws powerful enough to crush our skulls with one bite, to freeze. And that's not a bad instinct in that situation, because when we make sudden moves, wild animals tend to make adverse sudden moves. So, what scares people right now is that there is a danger out there, but it's not clear, and it doesn't seem to be present, and it's not giving us that fair warning, that from the mountains to warn us to stay away. Instead, it is this invisible killer out there. You ever see that movie Bird Box with Sandra Bullock? It came out on Netflix. It was about this monster. They never show the monster. If you look at the monster, it makes you go crazy and die, basically. And all of these people, they're hiding inside, they stay inside, most of the movie happens inside, and if they go out, they have to wear a mask. Not a mask, a breathing mask over their face like everybody's doing now, but a mask over their eyes. As this situation goes on, it just reminds me more and more, man, was Bird Box a prophetic film about the impending stay-apocalypse? Not apocalypse, but the stay-apocalypse. Kind of like a staycation version of a vacation. The apocalypse we all thought we were going to get was fighting zombies outside with swords and guns and stuff. And the one we got was sitting at home, waiting. And the waiting, man, the waiting. the United States is in a situation it has never been in before. Over here in China, because the power that the Chinese government has is far beyond what the executive branch of the United States is able to do, man, this might sound terrible to the freedom-loving patriots, and I apologize if that's you, but the situation is really well controlled over here. The government said stay home, people stayed home. The government said quarantine yourselves, people quarantined themselves. The government said jump, and they jumped. Okay, I don't want to turn this into a political rant, but honestly, for me, it's been pretty easy. These last 3.5 months, this quarantine at home. A lot of people despair over it. I haven't got a paycheck in that time frame. And a lot of people are freaking out. Oh, I lost my job. I lost my money. I have no income. Okay, I get that, but I am weirdly optimistic about this whole thing. And I have been from the start. Why is that? Probably because I remembered what my scoutmaster told me when he dropped me off in the middle of the desert with a 50-mile hike ahead of me and no clear charted course. Don't panic. So yeah, you got these kids stuck at home. You know them so much better than I do. And you might feel helpless. But they don't feel that you are helpless. You are in a unique position to help them in so many ways that you might not even realize. Sometimes just having someone there to listen is enough. In this time, I have had hundreds of people send me similar letters to this, saying essentially, give me some words of hope, because I'm feeling hopeless. And man, American media certainly doesn't help the situation. Bunch of fear-mongers over there. Anytime there is a way to rile up the masses and make them afraid, they will do it to profit off of you. Unfortunately, because it divides the masses. Because divided masses, when we have an us and them, that creates revenue for the powers that be, and that sucks. That sucks because innocents pay the price, unfortunately. So for anybody out there considering being a fearmonger, especially at this point in time, cut it out. Just stop. Stop. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I've said this before, made a whole video about this before, man. But I'll make another one because you asked, and so many other people have asked. Tell us more. Tell us from your experience. Well, been staying at home with my wife and my kids every day for the last 3.5 months, and it's been kind of awesome, actually. Your situation is what you make of it. You know, some people, they get stuck in this mentality of, I'm not living unless I'm following my routine, and then they're cut off from that routine, and then they feel like they have nothing, and they become despondent. What's so awesome about being at home with my wife and my kids, with the people I love more than anything else in this world? What is so awesome about that? About having all of this extra time with them? The difference between somebody who counts their blessings and the person who counts their burdens is massive. You can have two people with the very same lot in life, and one might complain, and one might not. And what's the difference? You ever hear that story about there's a gas station attendant in this small town, and these folks pull up into the gas station to buy some gas, and they say, hey, we're thinking about moving to this town. What's it like? And the gas station attendant says, well, where are you from? What's that like? And they tell them all about their old town they're thinking about moving away from and how it's terrible. Everything sucks there. So they want to move. They want to get out of there. They say, so what's this place like? And he says, it's about the same as that. So they move on. Sometime later, another family pulls up in their car to buy gas, and they say, hey, we're thinking about moving here. What's it like here? And he says, well, what's it like where you're from? They say, well, it's great. It's great. We just, we're considering a move for this reason or that reason. But yeah, we love where we're from. We love our neighbors. We love everything about it. He said, so what's this place like? And the gas station attendant says, well, it's about the same. And so they move in. What's the lesson there in that little parable? Your situation is largely determined by your perspective. I heard this narrative, this personal narrative by this man who was a POW in World War II. I think he was somewhere in Southeast Asia, and he was kept in a tiny little cage, not big enough to stand up and barely big enough to squat in. And he spent an inordinate amount of time in that cage. And yet this man stuck in this tiny little cage was able to express gratitude. And that's what got him through that dire situation that would drive so many people mad. A lot of people consider solitary confinement in prison to be cruel and unusual punishment because a lot of people can't handle it. Because some people just need other people. They need that routine. They need interaction. And some people don't. What makes the difference? There are a ton of variables in there. I'll tell you one of those variables. One of them is gratitude. Now, Sean, you mentioned that you appreciate what religion does for society, even as an atheist, and I can appreciate that. That's cool. That's cool. One of those things that religion teaches is gratitude. And you have to keep in mind, when I speak of religion, I'm not just talking about, the various sects and cults and dogmas out there. I'm talking about what people actually do. Because it's one thing to say, oh yes, I belong to religion A, I belong to religion B. I don't care what your religion is called, I care what it does. Just like with martial arts, I don't care what your martial art is called, I care what it does, what you do with it. Like all those arguments on the internet, style A sucks, style B is cool. Style C works, style C does not. Nah, man, there are no styles. There is what you do to train and how you perform in a fight. Same thing with religions, man. It's what you do that matters. And if what you do is express selfishness, you're going to be miserable. And if what you do is express gratitude, you can find happiness even in a tiny little cage. Another story I heard was about this Jewish Holocaust survivor. And she recounted the story of being grateful for fleas. Because she and those close to her ended up infested with fleas, and so the Nazi officers who would have otherwise beaten them, tortured them, whatever they would have done didn't want to get close to them. And so she expressed gratitude for the fleas. She thanked God for the fleas. I am so grateful that I am infested with fleas right now. Even in the most dire and worst circumstances, gratitude unlocks the door of that cage you feel you're stuck in. What advice would I give to high school students? Man, don't panic. This virus will run its course. That is what viruses do. Pay attention to your biology teacher, to your biology textbook. If you haven't got to the section on viruses yet, skip ahead a little bit. Learn a little bit about how those things work. They will run their course. And that scares some people, especially if you have fearmongers preaching, we're all gonna die. Now pay us your money. Ignore those guys. Turn off the TV, man. If the TV is scaring you, turn it off. But what do viruses do? They make people sick. Some people are going to die. That's life, unfortunately. But my friends, this is not our eternal home. We are going to spend eternity in a vastly different state than this one here on this earth. No matter what you believe, that is an objective truth. Some people are going to die. Some people have died. Some people continue to die. But the virus will run its course. Some will survive, develop immunity. Life will go on. I like to think of this particular situation as a trial run, if you will. Because things can, and probably will, get so much worse. I mean, what would happen if we had this whole viral outbreak going on and then something else tragic happened? A natural disaster, perhaps, or a major war erupting, something like that. Oh, man. Staying at home and being bored would be the least of your concerns then. It can always get worse. If you feel bad, it can get worse. It has been worse, and it will be worse at some point. I actually had viral pneumonia when I was in high school. Summer vacation, actually, man. It was early on in summer vacation. I was excited to be free from school and studies, and so I was running around playing in my front yard with my brothers, and we just ran around all day, just being very physical, playing and running and jumping and all of this stuff. And that night, I came down with this tremendous fever. I woke up the next day unable to sit up in bed, unable to move. My lungs had filled up with fluid. There was a mass of liquid and phlegm and mucus and blood about the size of a large grapefruit, a pomelo, something like that, stuck in my left lung, and it was very difficult to breathe. The act of attempting to sit up made me black out and lose consciousness. I had this temperature of like 106 degrees, and I felt so very near death many times. I was bedridden for about 3 months, and man, went through so much atrophy from that experience. And that came out of nowhere, man. That I saw a doctor about it. He said it was viral. It was caused by a virus. It was not caused by anything else. Anyway, that sucked. That sucked. So, man, the amount of empathy I have for people dying of this, man. I have felt that, and it is one of the most excruciating things I went through. But I'm glad I went through it. If I had to do it again, I would. I would, because that taught me so many important lessons, not the least of which are the ones I'm trying to share with you today. Don't panic. And express gratitude. 'Cause that's one of those things that got me through. So, Sean, my friend, be a beacon of light to your students. They do look up to you, even if you feel helpless. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and a lot of people say, you should stop saying get out there. Where's there? There is where you are. Whether you're stuck in a tiny little bamboo cage in Southeast Asia or stuck in your living room for 3 months or whatever it is, there is there. Get out there and train.